The superintendent of APS, Dr. Luis Valentino, sent text messages last week to APS Chief Financial Officer Don Moya, but Dr. Valentino meant to send those texts to New Mexico Education Secretary Hanna Skandera. Dr. Valentino said in one of those messages that he was, quote, going to go after Moya, end quote. We don't know yet what's going on behind the scenes in regards to leadership at APS, but many are outraged that Dr. Valentino was attempting to communicate with Ms. Skandera about a personnel issue at APS, Tom, and you've certainly had your share of experience at APS, not quite like this, but you know, how does this in fact set up Dr. Valentino's standing with the rank and file? That's my first question. What does this do for folks who are looking up to him to be the new leader of this?
Not forward? Well. Yeah, I mean, you have a new leader. You have the leaders from out of state, so there's a perception of,
San Francisco,
okay,
right?
Things are going to be different.
Right.
When in actuality, by sending that text message, it says things are going to remain the same. He has to be able to right now build that trust. And with that text message, it raises so many questions like, why on earth is he talking to the Secretary of Education instead of maybe the President of the Board? Okay, so why is he taking it outside of the family circle, so to speak? And then secondly, why is he not giving that particular employee a chance to prove his or her own worth? Instead, they're just trying to make a case to edge them out. And you know, there's something going on with technology and superintendents at APS, because if it's not text messaging, it's Twitter. And I would just suggest that everybody put their cell phone away and just focus on face-to-face communication, because that's really the best.
Right, exactly right. It sounded very cozy, this relationship with Ms. Skandera, like something had been discussed previously. One could infer, I'm not asking, but one could infer that there was some kind of relationship established. It wouldn't sit well with Mr. Moya.
Well, certainly a familiarity enough to be able to text something like this in the morning, because clearly there was a morning. My favorite comment on all of this, you know, and obviously at some point it becomes an echo chamber, but my favorite comment on this story was the guy immediately who said that he should be ousted just based on his poor spelling and his inability to use a smartphone. Because what are you thinking? I mean, after already having, you know, the problems in the past with the past superintendent, APS should just ban the superintendents from using, you know, any of that media and just make them go back to, you know, a landline if need be. But I think, you know, the bigger issue is just that clearly, you know, I agree with Tom. He's not keeping it within the family. He has, you know, he's got this relationship, however close it is, with the secretary, to the point that he's disclosing to her, you know, his actions with employees. That's not appropriate at all. And I think that Mr. Moya is right to be seeking counsel on an employment matter, because this clearly looks like, you know, an effort to oust him that is not based in anything real.
Has the superintendent lost leverage at this early point?
Just what the community knows. He's not careful. He doesn't pay attention to details. And if you dig down one layer, and I can't remember, has he been here 30 days or 60 days on the job?
Somewhere in between, I think.
Anyway. And the statement that this individual was running roughshod over an agency that he was responsible for gave me pause, because if you're coming into a big organization, that just seemed like too short a period to make that evaluation. And I think he has really damaged himself.
And Carolyn, one can assume that someone has been in his ear about these issues all along. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I think the rank and file would have some question, it would seem to me. Like, who's this man been talking to? And a tone has been set, it seemed to me, because the language going after somebody, it's not like I have a situation, I have a difficult decision I might have to face. I could use your advice. Or I have something I should be talking about with the board. What do you think about this, as Tom mentioned? No, going after is a whole nother story altogether.
On text? I mean, hello? That, you just don't do that, right? And he's been in the job such a short amount of time. It felt like a pure power move, and he made a big mistake, and now he learned his lesson. We live in a world of social media. There are a billion people on Facebook and so forth. That it was just a stupid move. But it happens all the time. I mean, there are conversations that happen all the time.
That's true.
You can't text.
That's right.
You can't email.
That's right.
Right? And you need to have conversations face to face. And how he did it to me was
for everybody, does the superintendent need to apologize or do something to the union and rank and file? Does he need to say something? Tom, let me ask you directly. Does he need to like publicly say something?
I think he needs to publicly explain what on earth he was thinking. I mean, you know, I think there's some explanation that's needed, saying here's why I sought the counsel of the Secretary of Education on this particular case, because you know, and he might not like the answer.
Yeah, there you go. Up next, we talk about what the rejection of a rate increase request for Blue Cross Blue Shield might mean for New Mexicans.